Just do a quick set of hand curls. Let's do it through your bed.
This is an application that will wrap package and display what you see on the screen before. We're going to look at this particular packet capture where we've got a number of packets. We're examining a single packet that we will view, and this is the hexagon breakdown of that single packet. When we look at this single packet, we start at the top here, right number 88, which happens to have 2,005 bytes on the wire. This is the physical layer where we have the network. The next layer is layer 2, the data link layer.
11, 12, okay, cool. Now do.
It shows the name and the IP address of both the source and the destination. OSI layer 4 is the next layer, the transport layer. I mentioned that we're using either TCP or
Let's do some sort of handstands.
You can see the source port numbers and the destination port numbers for this communication. And lastly, for this particular packet capture, we've got layers 5, 6, and 7 that are within the secure socket layer. So our encryption and decryption occurring at layer 6 or the application layer, and ultimately the information we see at layer 7, the application layer, will be everything above that particular data stream. To summarize that individual packet, we were able to see what was gathered from the electrical signals. We were able to gather the MAC addresses associated with this Ethernet communication. We saw the IP addresses that were going to send information back and forth.
It's not happening today.
We know there was TCP communication.
I'm sure it's for me.
There was session information linking the presentation layer to the transport layer, and it was the presentation.
Let's try to do Planche.
SSL encryption. And if we were looking at our browser as this traffic went by, we would have been in the Google Mail screen sending information back and forth using this application at OSI layer 7. Here's a picture of what the network common looks like in our homes. We have a network connection, and this connection is usually connected to a wireless route. And in this case, I've broken out the different components of that wireless router. We have our wireless access point, the switch interfaces on the back of that wireless router, and the routing function.
His hands on the knees, yeah.
Computers and network devices
Stand aside.
our network, all communicating out to the internet and back again. From our computer, we may send information to the wireless network that then connects to the switch and is ultimately routed out to the internet. That information goes to a server on the internet side and then begins the process of coming back inside of our router to our switch interface, out to the wireless network, and back to our computer. It's not much different in an enterprise network. There may be separate switches and separate routers and separate wireless access points, but the functionality is exactly the same functionality that it has
Try again.
You might have a central storage switches on the first floor of your building, and it might communicate up to the second floor to your computer, and then your computer may send that information back down to the first floor again. It's using exactly the same type of Ethernet network with exactly the same protocols as it's using in your home. And of course, the same process occurs as the network grows even larger. On a large enterprise network, there may be individual buildings with switches inside each one of those. But the process of sending that Ethernet frame across the network and getting a response from that device is exactly the same as every other Ethernet network.
Continue.
On this particular slide, I want to break out for you what's inside of that Ethernet frame. This level of detail is not necessarily required for plus certification, but it is useful for understanding the way that our switches and our routers work inside of our network. If you were to capture an Ethernet frame with a packet analyzer and view the components of that frame, it will look a lot like what we have at the bottom of the screen here. We start with a preamble, and then there's a start frame delimiter. Then there's a destination MAC address, that's where this particular frame is destined to. And we also have inside of this frame the source MAC address for the original device that is sending this data across the network. There's a type field, the payload itself, whatever we're sending device, and a frame check sequence that examines everything we send across the network. This preamble is an alternating number of ones and zeros. This is the way the receiving workstation knows that the rest of the information that's about to arrive is in the Ethernet frame. Then we have a start frame delimiter, which is a set of ones and zeros that is 10, 10, 10, 11. And that means that after this point is going to be related to this communication. The next two pieces of information are what you might expect to have inside of an Ethernet frame. That's the destination of where this frame is going, and the source address that details who sent this information across the network. This is the type field. This is also called the ether type, which describes what's inside of this particular frame. This ether type field might describe IP version 4 traffic in the rest of this frame, or it might say there's IP version 6 traffic in the rest of this frame. And then finally is the payload. There might be IP information inside of this frame. It might also have TCP data, maybe some browsing information, but all of that is contained within the payload of the Ethernet frame. And lastly is the frame check sequence. This is something that is part of every Ethernet frame that goes across the network. The frame check sequence is a CRC checksum that looks at all of the data that was sent in this Ethernet frame, and it's able to come up with a single checksum. When your device receives this frame, it calculates the frame check sequence in exactly the same way that the original device did, and then it compares that frame check sequence to what's inside of the frame itself. If those two match, then the frame is received correctly. If this frame check sequence doesn't match, we know that something was corrupted with its data